Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second session of our ReExt series on how to build a time tracker application. As you know, a few weeks ago, we showed you how to build the basic application, how to get ReExt, how to install it. So if you missed that session, I invite you to go to YouTube and look for that session on our Sencha channel. If you're up to date, then let's continue. Let's see what we have in store for you today. As we said on last session, we're going to have between 8 or 9 different sessions to show you how to build this application. On today's session, what I will be showing you is how to take XJS components into React by using ReExt. So I'm just going to be showing you some of the basics. I'm going to show you panels and layouts. I'm going to show you how to create a basic form and windows. Then we're gonna look into a basic grid. I'm gonna show you how to bring charts, how to create your data store, and how to change the visual theme for your application. Also on session 3 this week, I'm gonna show you how to create a basic navigation panel. I'm gonna be using tab panels, but there are different options. Then on the following weeks, we're gonna learn more about how to create some session management, how to create your first grid, create your own themes, create the user grid, and how to create reports and KPIs. So anyways, let's start with today's session. Just as a quick reminder, if you want to work with ReExt, I have some links here that are quite useful. The first one will take you to Sencha's kitchen sink, which basically it's just our sample site. And on this site, you can go in and check any of our components. This is coded for XJS, not for ReExt, but it's quite similar, and that's part of what we're going to be doing today. So let's say that you want to learn how to create a basic column chart. You can come into our kitchen sink and look at the code here. Like I said, this is part of what we are going to be doing today. If you want to see the code instead on our demo site for ReExt, we have this other demo site over here, and you can go in and take a look at how it works. For example, we have this tab panel, which loads different components. On the left, we have some other options. And on the right, you're looking at the code that displays this information over here. So this is also available for you. And if you want more information on Sencha components, you can go into our documentation, and we have plenty more there. Let's say you want to learn how to get a date field, you can look for it here, and it will be available here as an example too, and you will get all the properties that are available for it. Okay, let's first take a look at the ReExt component. This is our path to get the components from Sencha into React. So basically we use this component called ReExt. We specify a next type, which this comes from our documentation. If you look for any component here, you're going to have the X type. And then you can add a class name for CSS styling. You can add style, references, the config tag, and some events like ready and on tab. All that it's required is the X type and the config. Those two are the ones that you need to create your component. Everything else, it's optional, okay? Um, so let's take a look. Let's go ahead and look at our code and see how this works. Okay, so now that we have gone through the basics, let's build our first example. I have already created the project. I used React and Bit to create it. When you do so, this is going to create your main.jsx file inside the source folder. Make sure everything is set up correctly. You need to specify the SDK version, the toolkit, the theme, the packages. Make sure that for now those are false. These are going to try to load extra packages into your project. Some of these come with your commercial version, professional one, or some others come for example, D3 and calendar, they come with the enterprise version. So make sure they're all false so that you don't get an error there. You can change the locale. For now, it's in English. And you can also change the location over the SDK. If you're using the trial edition, make sure this is remote. This is gonna load the SDK from the web. If you're using a valid license, you can put it as local. Just make sure that inside your source, inside your public folder, you have your SDK there. It must contain the version number there so that it loads. So it's gonna look for ext dash and the version number that you have here. Okay, now that we have it set up, we should go into our app.jsx file. And this is where we're gonna start building our application. For now, all I have is some basic React and a message that says hello world. So it just looks like this. But if we want to do a lot more, then what we have to do is create our first ReExt component. So instead of hello world, I'm just gonna create my first component. Like we mentioned before, we use ReExt, and then we must specify a next type. Like I said, either in the docs or in the kitchen sink, you will have more information about the X types available for you. And the other property that we must specify is the config property. This property needs data from XJS. So basically anything I see in the documentation that it's there, I can put it here inside config. So for example, I have a title, just specify it here. I'm gonna say example 01. If I want to specify a width and a height, I can do it. Say width 100%. Oh, sorry, 100%, and height, I'm just gonna say, let's say 100 bh. And for some content right now, I'm just gonna add some HTML sample content. Now that it's saved, I can go and test it. And it will look just like this. I have a basic title bar and some content. Right now, this is using the basic classic theme. If I don't want that, I can just go into my setup. And instead of using the classic theme, I can use something a little bit more modern like Triton or Material. For now, I'm gonna be using Triton. So now it looks like this. Okay, let's go back over here. Now that I have this example, let's say that we don't want just one basic panel and some HTML. What's the point of doing that? So instead, I'm gonna use the items array. This one receives more XJS objects in it. So if I want to create some sub panels, I can just do it here. So I have to specify the X type again. Let's say sub panel 1. I'm gonna put a title there. Sorry, my mistake. This is gonna be panel and this is gonna be sub panel 1. I'm gonna put some HTML there. And I'm gonna create a second panel. Notice that I'm just adding some basic options there. This is not gonna be working correctly, as you will be able to see in just a sec. Basically, I have the example panel that contains those two. But this looks weird. This is not using the full screen. So instead of doing it this way, what I will be doing is using a layout. So basically, I'll just type layout here. I can just say VBox or HBox or something like that. For now, instead of just doing it that way, I'm going to specify a few more things. I'm going to say type. Let's say I want an HBox. If I do that, I need to also specify a flex value over here. This is going to specify exactly how much of the width of the screen this is going to grab. So this is grabbing 50% and 50% for each panel, but it's still not getting the full screen. So in layout, I must also specify a line, and I can add the value of stretch. If I do that and test again, now as you can see, I get the full screen. I have a panel on the left and a panel on the right. What else? Instead of specifying HBox as the type, I can specify VBox, and I'm going to test once again. And what that will do is that I have a panel on top and another one on the bottom. Since these are flex values, I can do this in different ways. For example, I can have one panel to be a flex value of 1 and the second one a flex value of 2. That's going to divide it in 33% and 66. Okay. Or instead of having a flex value on the first one, I can specify a pixel value. Let's say I want 200 pixels. Let's try it again. So the first one, it's a fixed value. And the second one, it's a flex value that it's going to change depending on the size of the window. Okay, there are a few more issues that I have to work through, like that height that wasn't changing, but for now, I'm just gonna leave it like it is. So as you can see, it's quite easy for now to set it up and make it work. But what if we want to do it all with ReExt? Because right now, yeah, I have ReExt here, but those items must be hard-coded inside of my panel. I don't think that's the best idea. So instead of doing it that way, what I will do instead, it's using the ReExt component as an open tag and then using the ReExt closing tag. And then instead, I'm just going to create another panel this way. So I have the panel, and then I can specify its own config. And here I'm just gonna say the same thing that I said before. I'm gonna add a flex value of, let's say 1. I'm gonna give it a title. I'm gonna say panel 1 and some HTML, sample text 1. And for the same code 1, I'm just gonna grab this, copy, paste. I'm gonna say panel 2. Let's say flex value of 2. Okay, before we test, there are a couple of things we have to check out. First, when we do it this way, the children of the main panel must have the child property there. This will let XJS know that they are children of the main panel. The other thing to do is do not add the flex value here inside the config. Instead of do it inside of the style property. So here I'm just gonna say flex 1. And over here, I'm just gonna say flex 2. Sometimes it may work correctly if you put it inside the config property, but it's better to put it there. It will always work if you put it inside the sorry, inside the style property. So what we added is child, we added style. Let's save and let's test it. So now we have both panels there. It's basically the same idea from what we did before, but I did it with its own ReExt component. And this opens the door to do it in a different way because now we can actually create our own components inside of our application. So this folder over here is usually not created for you. You have to create it. I already did. And then I created a view folder and I'm going to be creating more folders, for example, store, or even model or controllers, whatever you need, you can create it. I have a few more tests on this folder, just ignore it. And just to avoid that error that I was getting, that everything was getting centered, I got rid of that too. So like I was saying, now let's see what's next. So this is the main file. It's not a good idea to have everything here. So instead of doing it this way, I'm just gonna create a new folder that I'm gonna call main. And inside of main, I'm gonna create a panel that contains all the other panels. So for now, I'm just gonna call it main panel.jsx. And inside of it, I'm going to create my new component. Inside of main panel, I'm just gonna create everything. So as you can see, I have import so that I can import ReExt. I am exporting the main panel. And here, I'm gonna get that ReExt panel. For now, I'm gonna get everything. And I'm going to put it there. So basically I moved everything that was outside into my new component. And now let's just call it. So now I can go and test and I should be getting the same thing. Okay. But of course, just like with any React component, I can send more properties. Let's say title equals my own panel. And instead of inside of panel, I'm just gonna say the title, it's going to be props.title. If I go in and test, there it is. Okay. So we're mixing the power of React with the power of XJS. So let's say that I want to create more options here and not to have them this way. That's the next thing I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna create a new panel here. Say gonna call it left panel.jsx. I'm gonna grab what I have here. So this is gonna be left panel, and I'm just gonna leave the left panel inside of this. And that's all I have right now. I'm also using props to specify the new title. Okay, so I'm gonna take that one out of my example. And instead of just calling ReExt, I'm just going to call my left panel there. Put a title there. Let's see if this works correctly. I only have one panel, so that's working. Okay, but instead of doing it this way, I'm just gonna put it inside of this ReExt component. So let's go ahead and let's continue. I'm gonna be showing you different options. Okay, so instead of having one panel inside of another one, what I want to do is just create some buttons. I'm gonna show you how to create buttons, how to add its handler, how to open, alert, confirm windows. So we already have this, so I'm just gonna create a new ReExt component. Its X type is going to be button, and I'm going to set it up. So as you know, we need to use the config property. And it's also a good idea to use the style property, which is going to be, let's say it's a width of 200 pixels. And inside the config, I'm just gonna give it some text. Basically, I'm just gonna call it open alert window. And I'm going to add a handler. So now that I have that handler, what I'm going to do to show you that it works, basically all I'm going to do is open a message window, which is going to be an alert box. And I'm going to just say hello, and this is an alert window. We go and test this. We should be getting one button there. Click on it. This is all I get. Okay. Now, if I want to add a second button, all I have to do is copy and paste. And then let's open a confirm window. And this is going to be called confirm. So now we go ahead and test this. Now we have an open alert window with only an OK button and a confirm window that has both options, yes and no. Usually these windows do have a callback function, so I can actually go in and just check that. So whatever we get there, just gonna use the basic JavaScript window. I can check if this is just gonna be yes or no, and I can do an if statement there to check what it's going to happen. But for now, I'm just gonna add a basic alert window. Let's click on it. I hit on no. That's what I got. If I click on yes, that's what I have. And if I close the window, I get cancel. Okay. So basically, I can just do it this way. But let's say that you don't want to use XGS for the actual handler. You want some method over here with React to work through your methods. So I can just create it. Say do action equals, let's just add our own function, sorry. And here I'm just gonna say, let's copy this over here. And then the handler, what it's going to be calling, it's that toAction method. If we test that, that's going to actually load the event from React. It's basically the same thing, but now it is using that React method. So you can link them together without any issue. And let's do it one other way. I'm gonna leave that one there. I'm gonna take the handler out of it, and I'm going to add another method. So let me just do it this way. If I do it right there, I can do whatever I want. Let's say do action. And that works exactly the same. Okay, so it depends the way you want to do it. You can also use a hook if you wanted to. But for now, I showed you these three different options. Now, let's go on, let's move on, and I will be showing you a few more options like the grid and the charts. Okay, so let me take this out and we'll move on. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a chart. Let's just remember that we have to go and activate the charts, and that way we can start working with them. So basically what I'm going to do is create a new ReExt component, and this one is going to be of X type Cartesian. This is the container that will actually create the chart inside of it. So I don't have to do much inside of it, but let's just add some config and some style. Let's say just a width of, I don't know, 500 pixels and a height of 400. Even though I don't have anything yet here, if I did not set up the actual chart as true, it's gonna throw us an error. But anyways, let's start setting up the chart. So first thing I have to do is set up the axis, and the second thing I will have to do is set up the series, and at the end I will have to create a store. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave those three properties there. So the axis, basically it's part of the container. I'm gonna have the category axis and the numeric axis. Those two will allow me to show my chart. So let's create the axis. The first one is going to be numeric. So this is gonna be the left axis. So I'm just gonna say position left, and then I have to specify the fields that are going to give the value to this axis. So I know it's going to be called IND, so it's there. And I can specify a few more things, but for now, I'm just going to say grid equals true. Then for the second one, I'm going to select type category. This time, this bar, it's going to be located at the bottom. And the fields that it's going to be using, it's just country. Okay. And same deal, I'm just going to add a grid. After I have that, I can create the series. The actual series uh, is where I specify the type, if it's going to be a bar, line, or whatever else I need. So for now, this is going to be type bar. And all I'm going to do for now is specify a next field, which is going to be country, and a Y field, which is going to be the same value, IND. Okay, I'm almost done. I have to create the store. This store can connect to the backend, but for now, all I'm going to be doing is just adding the data directly. The data, it's an array, and I'm just going to copy and paste so that we don't waste any time. There it is. So I have the country. I have three different values for the first example. I'm just gonna load it like that. Okay, we go ahead and test it. This is how this looks. The colors are quite simple, but we can change those. But before doing that, let me show you that in the Y field, I can add more values. For example, I'm getting the value from IND, but I can add another one, for example, AGR and SER. Let's save, let's test, and we're gonna get the three values. By default, they are stacked. If we don't want them to be stacked, we can change that too. All we have to do, it's inside the series, say that stack it's equals false. And that way we will get the chart to look something like this. Okay, let me change the size to something a little bit bigger so that it's easier to see. But anyways, so that's how we create a basic chart. We can also add a theme that will make it look a lot better. And for that, all we do, it's somewhere outside the series, we not add the name of one of our palettes. So I tried blue, and there it is. Okay, that looks a lot better, but we can do a lot more if we wanted to. For example, we have blue, we have yellow, we have sky and category 1 and 2, and some others. But anyways, if that's not what we want to change, we could also add colors down here and just specify the CSS color value. For example, I want this to be, let's say, some shade of green. Then I want the other one to be shade of, let's say, blue. And at the end, I'm just gonna add another one that it's going to be a different shade of, another kind of blue. And before we try it out, let's change that because it's supposed to be colors. Let's see how that's working. And there it is. Those are the colors that I wanted to set up. Okay, there are a lot more options. This is just a basic idea. Once we get to create our reports and KPIs, we'll get to see a lot more about charts and different types. If you want to have a look at them, you want to see which ones does Sencha allows you to use, I would invite you to go to the kitchen sink, which is our demo site, and there you can go in and look at the different charts we have. The basic color is always green. It's not the most beautiful one, but we have a lot of different options, from the most common ones to even financial charts and scatter charts too. And you can do all this inside of Sencha without a lot of coding. So anyways, now that I have showed you how to create a basic chart, let's move on and I will show you how to create a basic form. And for that, let me take this out. Okay, so I already have a panel. I can use that one if I wanted to, but instead I'm just gonna put another one inside of the existing one. So ReExt, and now I'm gonna call this xtype form, and then config, and I'm going to set up everything there. Just like before, I also want to give it some styling, meaning I'm gonna give it a size, let's say width, I don't know, 500 and height 600 pixels. Side of config, I'm just gonna give it a title, my form. I'm also going to give it a few more options. For example, I'm going to add a bottom bar, which it's going to be a toolbar. So for now, that's just going to have a basic button that is going to have the action to save. Okay, this is not much what we have done. It's something simple. And this is all I have right now. I have my main panel and have the second one right here. Okay, I can change the layout for the top panel. So let's try center. And that's gonna send my new panel to the center of the top one. We haven't talked about layouts, but there are quite a few. You can also take a look at them inside our kitchen sink. So once again, just gonna load the kitchen sink. And if I search here for layouts, here you can see all of them. We have an absolute layout to use coordinates to locate your panels. We have an accordion layout, border. This one is quite useful to have east, west, north, and south panels. We also have a card layout already created for you, center, which is the one I just showed you, column, fit will get the whole screen or the whole parent component, sorry. Then we already looked at HBox and VBox. So Those are some of the ones you can use. We also have an anchor one, which I won't get to explain on this tutorial. But anyways, so I have the form, I have a toolbar. Now I'm also going to add the fields inside of the of this panel. So I can do it the same way. I can have a container and put the ReExt components right in the middle. I'm just gonna create them by using the items property. So let's say I want a field. I'm gonna say X type, and I'm gonna say text field. And there I can put the actual value or the label or anything I may need. And once again, if I don't know anything about XJS, your best place to go is the kitchen sink. So let's see, we have different examples there. Here's the text field. So that's the X type. I'll just grab the text field type there. And then I need a name so that when I send this to the backend, I get this name as the variable name. So I'm just gonna say username for now. Then I can add a label, let's say a user, and I can add also a temp value. Let's say my name there. Okay, and then if I wanted to create another field, I can just copy and paste this one. And let's say for now that this is going to be user password. And there I'm gonna take the value out, and then I'm just gonna say that the type for this field is password. And let me show you how this looks. So right now I have a username there and a password. Okay, now that we have those two fields, let me show you a few others. I'm still going to be using a basic text field, but this time I'm gonna create an email validation for it. So instead of username, I'm gonna call it email. The field label is gonna say email, and I'm gonna remove the value, and instead of that, what I'm going to add, it's a B type, which I'm gonna call email. This will validate and check that that field actually contains a valid email. Also, I haven't gone through this, but ReExt also includes a lot of options to validate data. So for now, I'm gonna just add allow blank and V type. Okay. Um, there are plenty more fields. We can add a basic number field if we wanted to. So just to make it a little bit faster, just gonna use that same one. I'm gonna call it number field. Let's say age, and then I'm just gonna leave it like that. I'll show you a few more options in a sec or two. Apart from those, we have the date field. Just gonna say date of birth, date. I'm gonna create a time field. Just gonna say time, okay? And like I said, I'm gonna show you a few more options in a couple of minutes, but let's see how this is working. And if we go ahead and take a look at this, it looks like this right now. So we got a basic text field, we got some password, we got an email, and it has to be a valid email. Then we have some number. We are also using the date selector and the time selector. And the time, even if it goes through every 15 minutes, you can actually type whatever you want there. Okay, let's apply a few changes. Okay, so to make it look a little bit better, I'm just gonna add a body padding of 16 pixels. I am adding this inside of the config property. And I am also going to give all of them a width of 100%. But instead of typing that on every single field, what I'm going to do is use the defaults key to put some default options for all the items. So I'm just gonna say with 100%. And let's see what that does. And as you can see, now we got a margin, an inside margin, and we also have the field measuring the whole width. Apart from that, let's apply a few more changes. If I want both the date field and time field to have the actual value of right now, just gonna say new date there. Same deal for time. Let's say that we want to add a min value and a max value to the number field. We can do that just by using min value and saying what's the minimal value, max value, and same idea, say 100. And that works not only with number fields, we can use that also in time fields and date fields. For example, I can say just allow times from 6 in the morning to 9 p.m. Let's save and let's go take a look at our project. Okay, now as you can see, it goes from 6 to 9 and the age starts at 5 and it won't allow me to go over 100. And we have plenty more fields. For now, I just wanted to show you a few of them. We're gonna be using a lot more during the creation of our time tracker. But like I said before, if you want to go and check all of them, just I invite you to just go to the kitchen sink and check over here. We have a text area for multi-line. We have a display field. We have checkboxes, radio boxes. We also have different ones like a combo box, which allows you to search while you type. We also have the tag field, which is similar to a combo box, but it allows you to select more than one value. So just go in, check them out, find out what we have there. You're gonna find quite a lot of fields there. If we wanted to add an action, we would do it the same way I showed you before. So we have a toolbar here. So I can add a handler. And inside of the handler, I can add my code. For example, I can get the form and validate it. And if everything is valid, then I can send it to the backend so that I can save the information I have just entered. Let's say I want to get the form. So I'm inside this button over here, which is inside this toolbar. If I want to get the form, I have to get it. Well, I can do it different ways, but I can get it just by saying this up and getting any X type that has the type form. So if we follow up, we are at the button, it will go up to the toolbar. This is not a form, it will go up to the actual form. This is a form, I'm getting that object. I can also use IDs, references, or item IDs. Right now, I'm just doing it this way. We will learn all the other ways on a different example. So now what I want to do is check if the form is valid. So the form contains the whole panel. I want to get the actual form. I have to say form.getForm, and then I can check if it's valid. And if it is valid, then I can continue. Otherwise, I can just leave it as it is, since this method is going to mark in red every field that is not valid. And now inside of this if statement, I can actually submit. So what I would do is say form get form dot submit, and inside of the submit, I would be entering all the options. For example, the URL that it's going to process this data. Let's say it's just process like that. This is not gonna work since I haven't set up anything yet. And I also have a few callback functions. For example, I have the success function and I have the failure function. And depending on how my backend works, it's how this is gonna be called. I'm not gonna test this since, like I just said, I don't have a backend set up just yet. Okay, now let's move on to the next example. The next example is gonna be a sample grid. So I'm gonna take all of these fields out of the panel. Okay, like I just said, I'm gonna create a grid instead of a form. So to do that, I'm just gonna say this is no longer a panel. This is a grid panel. That's the X type for it. And then I'm just gonna set everything up inside of it. So I'm gonna take the layout out. I'm going to create some columns for this grid. That's an array and it's gonna receive different objects. For example, I want an ID. I'm gonna give it a title by using the text property. I can give it a width. Have to give it a data index. This is how the data is gonna come from the backend. This is the name of the field, or however I'm calling the data when it gets to to the front end. And for now, that's it. Then let's put a second and a third field. I have those already over here. That'll be faster. So I'm just creating 3 fields here. And the last one, instead of a width, I'm gonna give it a flex value so that those two are fixed. And the third one, it's actually just a flex. And let's see what's going on there. There it is. I have no data, but I have those 3 columns I just talked about. So if I want to get the data, I have to create a store. So I can have the store as a separate file, or I can put it here. For this example, I'm just gonna put it inside this object here. There are 2 different types of stores. Right now, I'm just gonna be using the buffered store. Why that one? Because that one allows me to use an infinite grid. So for now, that's gonna be the basic part of it. Then I'm gonna say that all sorting will happen on the backend, and it's going to load by default the data. And then I have to specify where the data is coming from. That's why I use a proxy. I'm gonna get the data by using an Ajax component, and then I'm gonna specify the URL. Finally, since that data it's gonna be coming with certain format, I have to specify what the root property is going to be. In this case, it's gonna be users, and what the total property is going to be called to. Okay, this depends on how it comes from the backend. For now, I'm establishing them as I'm showing them here. And this is the URL I'm using. And this is what it brings. It just brings this data here. Okay, so basically it's a JSON file. It's got a user's key and all the data it's inside that array. And it also comes with a total count, which tells me that I have in total 50,000 rows, even though I'm only seeing 25 here. Okay, so apart from what I have set up here, I should also tell ReExt how big the page should be. So I'm saying page size 25 rows, and I'm also telling it to load ahead of time by using loading buffer zone of 100 rows. So basically it's bringing 4 pages ahead of time. I almost forgot before I test. Let me take the height out. Since this is an infinite grid and a grid that measures the whole height, I don't need it. And as you can see now, this is working. It looks like a long list. It's actually loading ahead of time. So you can see if I move really fast, I can see that it's loading. Okay, so that's as easy as it is. One of the cool things about using ReExt and its grid is that you can use all its options right out of the box. So you can sort without doing anything extra. As you can see, this is a lot of data and it's being sorted by the backend. That's why it takes a few seconds. You can also move the columns around, and that's also quite simple and it's already created for you. But if you wanted more options, there are a lot more. We will be talking about them during the whole webinar series. However, right now what I'm gonna show you are the plugins. So I'm just gonna add this plugin here, which is the grid filters. And now with that, I can add a filter to any of the columns that I have. So I'm just gonna say that this is a number filter. This is a string filter. And for the last one, I'm also going to use a string filter. Let's refresh. And as you can see, number filters do have a range value or a specific value. Then string filters they do search by any part of the string. It depends on how you have your backend set up. And that's basically it. there are more types of filters. You have list, you have date, and there are some others. But anyways, if you wanted more options, for example, if you wanted a default filter, you can do it here. Instead of just putting the data as a string, then we can say type string, and I can type value, let's say Larson. And now, as you can see, the filter has been set up since the beginning. Okay, so I hope this is giving you an idea of how everything works. So you can see it's simple and you have quite a huge list of components. Okay, finally, just to end today's session, what I'm gonna show you is how to change the theme of your application. I already did one. I showed you that we had Classic as a theme. Now I showed you Triton. We also have Material, which looks like this. So this one looks a lot more modern. And we have plenty more. If you wanted to see more about it, I invite you to check the kitchen sink once again. And over here, we have all a big list of different themes. So let's say we want to check the area theme. It looks like this. So I can go over here, also test that one. And now it looks like that. And this is not uh, the only themes that you can use. You can create your own themes. And for that, you can use Sencha Themer. One of the sessions that we will have at the end, I will show you how to use Sencha Themer to create your own theme and apply it to your application. So this is it for today's session. On the next session, we're gonna be building the navigation. So that's gonna be using a tab panel, and I'm also going to show you some other ways to create a navigation. So I want to thank you for being with us today, and we'll talk next time. Thank you, everybody. Okay, thank you, everybody. Like I just said, we are now moving to a quick question and answers session. I have a few questions here in the panel. If you have any other questions, please feel free to type them in the question panel here in the webinar. Kobe is asking us if I have more folders inside the public folder. What happens here is, as I explained on the previous session, I'm creating my application with ReExt by using Vite, and it created a few folders for me. Inside the public folder, I have the ReExt folder, which was automatically created, and then I added the SDK, which I got from the support site. But I will only have the SDK, as I mentioned before, only if I have a commercial version. If I'm using the trial edition, I have to use the remote location of the SDK, and that will sorry. Then I won't have as many folders inside the public folder. As we will learn later in another session, we can also add a custom folder to add our own XJS classes there. But we'll get to that later. And what else? Actually, yeah, just today we released a new version with some extra things. So one good thing is, since this series is one per day and two per week, if anything else comes out, I'm going to try to integrate it to our time tracker application. And if you have any questions, or if you want me to add something to the application, please just let us know here in the question panel, and I'll try and integrate this into future sessions. The Kobe is also asking us again if this is going to be in YouTube. Yes, all the sessions will be later made public in YouTube at our Sencha channel. And somebody else is asking me, is if this is the same than React. No, React was a tool that Sencha was offering a few years ago. That's been deprecated. Now we're using ReExt, and it's a whole different project. So this tool works in a whole different way. It's actually kind of like a wrapper around XJS that allows you to bring all the components into React. Um, let's see. Mark is asking me where can he get ReExt from. He can get. I mean, you can get it from our Sencha site. On the previous webinar, I did mention where to get it. I'll make sure to include it again on the next session. Let's see. Somebody else is asking us if the project is available in GitHub. It will be available as we record each session. I'm adding to the project, so right now it is not there. I will put it there once we get, I think, about session 6 or 7, so that there's enough code there for you to follow. Is the doc, sorry, Kobe's asking again, is the doc an example going to be more in depth? Do you mean if I'm going to go into more detail later on? Yes, right now I'm just touching on a few examples. Of course, everything that I'm gonna go into that is going to be more in depth is gonna be focused on this time tracker application. XJS and ReExt has a lot of options and tools, so I cannot go through all of them. We would be here for months and months. So what I will be doing is I will be focusing on the time tracker for all those examples. If there is something that you want, once again, just let us know and I'll try to add it to the sessions. As you can see at the beginning, I did talk about 8 sessions. There is going to be a 9th one. On the 9th one, it's just going to be some select topics there. I'm going to talk about the future of ReExt on that last session. So that's perfect for anything that you may want to learn, even if it doesn't have to do with the time tracker. I'm also being asked by Tony if we have a version of ReExt for Angular. Right now, we do not. It's something that we have in the cards, but right now I cannot mention anything about that. What else? Well, I'm gonna be here for almost a month, 2 sessions a week, like I mentioned. So I invite you to subscribe and keep on watching these videos. We will be producing a lot more, but for now, these sessions are what we're producing right now. So please join us. Please follow me. I'll share my credentials and my X handler and everything else on the next session. So please follow me, follow Sencha. We'll keep you updated. And thank you again, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's session. And tomorrow we will continue with the navigation. This navigation will be focused more on the time tracker. So tomorrow we will start actually working on the time tracking application by building its navigation, although we will look at some panels too. So thank you again and see you on the next session. Thank you.